Ayo, Platman here. So this is me just ranting and raving about Season 2, Episode 3 of the Wheel of Time show. I am a big, big fan of the book series. Love them. One of my dogs, his name is Perrin, is one of my favorite characters. I love the character Matt as well, but I don't like the name Matt, if that makes sense. So there's that. Anyway, so I'm just kind of barrel through this because I hate the show. I hate the show so much. For those of you who don't know, I hate the show. I think the show is and I even made a note on it, it's basically a fantasy soap opera. And I'm like, that's not what Wheel of Time is. So yeah, and I did look because I was so irritated that I was like, who's writing this? And it was mixed. It's a bag. It's half and half of men and women. So I can't just blame women for this. I do want to still blame women for this, but like, no, I think the creators and the writers all universally are like, this is what we're doing. And we're just going to change everything that we want. And that's fine. We're just going to kind of do our own thing. And you know what? I would be fine if they just did their own thing. If they had created their own fantasy universe and that's what they did, fine. I wouldn't have to watch it. I wouldn't feel obligated or inclined to watch it because I would just be like, good, you did your own thing. And it would just survive or fail on its own. Kind of like the Acolyte, where they spent $180 million and it failed. But no. They have to ruin one of my favorite fantasy books series of all time. And voila. So I'm going to try and power through my complaints because whatever. And just so you know, I wrote while I was reading it. I know I need to write it up better next time. And I will, but I'm not going to do it this time. So whatever. All right, so they did a really good job on the proper ceremony of how Nynaeve is going to go through these arches and whatever, and they had proper gravitas on that. I like that. I still don't like that the Aes Sedai don't have this like ageless face about them, so they just basically had makeup or not or whatever. They didn't do anything about the Aes Sedai look, and that's a core component of the story and has a lot of lore and meaning and reasoning behind it. And they just totally dropped it. And then it's like, okay, so you guys don't care. So fine. I'm annoyed at you, but fine. The other thing is that Aes Sedai are supposed to like sense power levels. So I feel like if you're in a group with only women who are Aes Sedai, I'm not saying they need to have like bars above their heads, but I feel like there should be some indicator, some visual indicator, because you're going at it from the perspective of the woman in the scene. But I can also see how that could be really cheesy and them talking about it and they're like, that wouldn't work. So I'm willing to kind of forget that because it is kind of a weird thing and it's not really important. But whatever. So she goes through the third one. She goes through these portals. The first one she goes through is so like not at all what happened in the books. I will say, so it wasn't what happened in the books. And of course, her dad isn't as awesome as her mom and as awesome as Nynaeve is. So, raw woman power again. And that was just so annoying to me. I'm like, why? Why does every scene have to be strong, independent women? Or, oh, look, women are better than men, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's you just keep pushing it. It's so annoying and sexist and bullcrap. I just hate it. But I will say, even though it was wrong, that the overall point of the thing was good. So I will grant them that even though they changed it up, they did a good job. The point of it was you have to make a decision to come back, and that is serious. So no matter how bad it is over there, you need to make the decision to come back. So I will grant them that. Okay, the other thing I don't like is like this hand waving they do to do magic. It's never, ever explained like that in the books, and it just feels so fake and so ridiculous, and it reminds me of the Avatar movie that M. Night Shyamalan did, where it's just like, we're going to do this whole song and dance to, like, move air or dirt or whatever. And to me, it feels like they're doing that, and they're doing it because it's a show. And again, it's another knock on the series, where it's just like, no, that's not what's needed, or, like, no, sorry. You guys are overdoing it at best, and you just shouldn't do it at all. Okay. Oh, there was an interesting thing where Nynaeve gets out of and she's like, oh, F this, and she just leaves, right? And then, of course, lands there, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And like, oh, supposedly, like, Moiraine just broke the bond, and like, this is just ridiculous. And then, bam, they got me. She's in the other one. Like, it's totally fake. This is the other test. Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, you got me. Bravo. It wasn't in the books, but it totally got me. It totally tricked me. Bravo. I will give you credit. So, good job. That was cool. Not my favorite, but still good, you know. Okay. Then we go away from Nynaeve for a bit. Oh, yeah, there was this weird thing where Nynaeve goes through the third arch, and then, like, there was no sense of time, and then all three of the women are just like, oh, yeah, she failed, she didn't come out immediately, so, like, we're done. And I couldn't help but be like, hold on, has this never happened before? Like, I don't know, maybe an Aes Sedai was in there and she's getting boned real good by, like, someone and didn't want to leave, or, you know, wanted to finish, whatever. Like, is there no indicator of time lapse or whatever? And from what I recall, something like this happened in the book. It was just handled better. So it just felt to me a little weird because all of a sudden the other Aes Sedai are like, we're just out. And I'm like, well, that's kind of just kind of random, but okay, fine, I guess you're out. Weird, but okay. All right, now we're back to Perrin and his crew, and they, you know, we're in the small town in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly they get attacked by these guys, which are a specific thing in the books, which have a specific story that they, like, totally skimped on and are doing all this other weird stuff that is just so wrong, okay? It feels like they skipped 2 books or more on the story. Ebodar. What? Seanchan is the name of these guys. Sorry. And it's just, like, so frustrating to me because the Seanchan are this interesting, like, almost neutral evil. Like, depending on your perspective of them throughout the series, you don't ever love them, but there is a degree of appreciation for them that I grew to have. And I can admire not only their military prowess and their, you know, it almost feels like if communism worked, which it's not really communism, if dictatorship worked, but wrapped in communist, you know, whatever, then this is kind of what you would have. But how they're portraying it here, which isn't much of a portrayal, is just so weird. Everything from their costumes is weird to, like, oh, they're attacking this small town of like 200 people. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand budgetary constraints, but, like, why would they be attacking this? This doesn't really make sense. And why is Perrin and his people here? Like, this also doesn't make sense. And this didn't happen in the books at all. And just everything about it is just super weird. And, like, borderline not realistic or not true, but okay. The other thing that annoys me is they have these women who use magic, right? And clearly they're not Aes Sedai, but they're women of power. And they're supposed to have a collar. And there's supposed to be a chain attached to their collar. Then the person behind them has a bracelet. And that is a very key thing. And not only did they not have it, like, it's just not there. And I'm like, that's a real key point that you just dropped entirely. Ugh! I hate these people. Just whatever. And then on top of that, their outfit looks and screams evil. It's effectively like nobody read the books at all who wrote this stuff. And they're not like, hey, maybe we shouldn't make them come out totally out and out evil. We'll just have their actions be evil objectively, but then maybe later they're not evil. It's like, no. Just have them be evil. And on top of that, there's one of the only Forsaken, because apparently the series can't even be bothered with, there's like 12 or 14 Forsaken. No. There's just one guy, apparently. We can't be bothered with any of these other people. And he's just out in the open, like totally visible and totally there. Like, it's not how that would work realistically. These are some of the most known people. Their name is known. Their action is known. If there is a male who can sense the power, he would look at that guy and sense his power. So you wouldn't just be out and out in the open unless you could totally control the environment. Anyways, there's this part where Nynaeve supposedly dies and I was mean and I was like, I wish she was dead because her storyline is so dumb. But whatever, it's stupid drama. Yeah, again, I love how they can't explain how long Nynaeve can be in the thing, and then just assume she's dead, and nobody bothers to close it up. They're just like, we're just gonna leave magic in this magic arc, and then we're just gonna, like a kid with the light. And they're like, I don't care about the electric bill. I'm like, okay. There's this stupid scene where Matt's been locked up this whole time, blah, 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 and this blonde chick who's Aes Sedai is saying things, and we as the audience know what she's saying is a lie. And if what she's saying is a lie, and she's Aes Sedai, then she's she's Dark Sister, like she's Black Sister, Black, part of the Black Aja. And to me, I'm like, okay, this is a really non-subtle way, but I guess since you haven't explained that, then maybe it's slick. But if she's a Black Aja, it's like, no, she's not, actually. She's just a horrible person. And it's like they don't get that or care, and they've just changed everything. Again. Egwene uses magic, and it's like she would have gotten in trouble for that. Somebody would have been there, but whatever. It's like, okay. We're back to Rand, and then he goes to this party. He needs to get this wine to give it to this guy. And it's like, okay, this is just so much ridiculous, bad exposition dump of a scene. And this is supposed to be the main character of the series, but no, we're going to have so much more time spent on Nynaeve and Egwene and whatever. And like a microcosm of time with Matt, Perrin, and Rand, who are the three leads of the series. Instead, we're having it all be focused on the women. Like, this whole show is just a hoorah to feminism. And that's, I think, maybe one of the biggest upsets, is it's not even a good hoorah. Like, the book series in and of itself delves really well into this concept of women having power, but it also illustrates this key thing, which is, in part, because back when things were great, men and women had power jointly. But then the men were facing off against the Dark Ones and were trying to do this thing. And if they had women joining them, they would have succeeded. But the women didn't want to do it for various reasons, and the men didn't convince them. And so the men went off and did it themselves. And unfortunately, they got miffed. If they had female support, they would have succeeded. But since they didn't, they got messed up. And that mess up basically wrecked the whole world. The whole world got a hard reset, as like, just imagine level 10 earthquakes all over the world. And now we're several thousand years past that point. That's kind of the moral of the story, is that men and women together achieve greatness. When they're not together, when they're doing things separate, and the women can do things and have been successful, but it's not ideal for women to just have all the power and kind of lord it over men. It doesn't really work. It's fragile. And that's kind of what all the books illustrate, is that it's not men are super powerful and amazing and women are lowly. It is like, yeah, women can be elevated to this point and men can be elevated to this point. And then when they join forces, yin and yang, which is what the dragon's fang is this, right? And whereas the Aes Sedai one is this. When they're together, they're awesome. But they just, again, tell me that you haven't read the books without telling me you haven't read the books. And that's what the show is. Okay. So the whole story with the Sea Ancient is dumb. Then wolves just attack out of nowhere. Perrin didn't talk to them. There's none of that. Blah, blah, blah. And then the Sea Ancient can just shoot magic missiles, not lightning strikes or stuff like that. But apparently they have Jedi powers. They can force push and then just fire magic air missiles randomly, which doesn't make any sense. And then there's an implication that Elias, who's this guy he's a guy, but he can communicate with wolves, and kind of what Perrin is becoming. And there's this weird implication that Elias ate a human or bit into and killed a human with his mouth. Elias is a really awesome and complicated character. And so far what they've done with him is just trash. But then this extra thing is just like, okay, tell me you didn't do your homework without telling me. a scene with like magic sex, and I'm like, what are we doing? Oh yeah, when he's having sex with Lanfear, who is one of the Forsaken, and they've just kind of glossed over it. And I don't like that they had to like Game of Thrones this stuff and have sex. These guys are supposed to be 16, 17. So not like copious amount. I mean, granted, teenagers are horny, but no. And there's been no indication of like, oh, I don't know, Matt would be so much better with the ladies. Like, they just glossed over it, and they just made these guys 24-year-olds who like bone all the time, and it's like nothing. And they're like, okay, you guess they don't know how babies are born or whatever. I also feel bad because the actress who plays Lanfear she's a beautiful lady, but honestly, they should have picked a different actress because Lanfear is kind of a certain age and is like the pinnacle of beauty, like unquestionably. And while this actress is beautiful, I think she's a little short of that. And then there's this other thing, which is unfortunate because she was very successful in another show called Peaky Blinders. And in that show, her character started off as a whore. And kind of was a whore for most of the season until later where she became a wife of the guy that she was a whore for because she got pregnant and he decided to marry her. So while it's not fair to be like, well, you were a whore in this last thing and you're kind of acting like a whore in this thing, I guess she's a bar manager, so it's not a whore. But she's sleeping with some random younger guy, kind of like a whore would. I don't know. Maybe she's a cougar now. I don't know. It's just bad casting to me, and it's just further illustrates that they don't know what they're talking about. This version of Matt, which they barely introduced him, is just so not the good Matt in the books. This is just this one-dimensional, one-layer individual. And the version of the Matt is this complex, constant complaining, but always there when you need him type of individual. And they just ruined him. Okay. I love the irony and the implication that Nynaeve isn't strong enough to say no in a relationship with Lan, so long that we need to have a whole story about it. So like, her third one is like, oh, she's in this thing with Lan and she can't say no to him, and see, she's dominated by this guy, and it's like, that's not. Oh, it's just bullcrap. Then there's this thing where like Nynaeve can supposedly take out a Trolloc. She can take out a Trolloc one-on-one. Like, and mind you, Trolloc's like 9 feet tall, and it's just nothing but muscle, and it's just a beast. It's massive. Its sole objective is to kill things. And Nynaeve, this like 150, 160 pound girl, can in a fight with swords take on this. And I'm like, no, his arm weighs almost as much as your entire body. You cannot take him on. You cannot stop him. He will mess you up. Which is why Aes Sedai have warders to help block the Aes Sedai so that the warder can fight them in close combat and the Aes Sedai can do other stuff. But no, Nynaeve is amazing and super capable, so okay. Then there's this last thing where Nynaeve comes out of the last trial. And it was so weird, the trial. And there was this weird non-cut where the actresses, Egwene and whatever, like, she comes out and then there's this, like, weird pause. It's not even an awkward pause. It's like, instead of her coming out like, oh my god, we told, yay. It's just this, like, oh, you're here. And it's just, like, weird. I don't know why they included that. Anyways. Hate the show. I can't wait to not do another episode of this. Sorry. I'm not looking forward to doing another episode of this, but I will if you guys like it. So like, subscribe. Please leave any comments, criticisms, or suggestions. I appreciate you all. Plaidman out. Bye-bye.